Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
Hey Atlanta, say hello to Small Business Help from Apple. That's right, we're here to make starting and running your business simpler. From helping you choose the right devices to setting them up hassle-free, we can help you build your business in no time. Speak to a business expert and get the help you need at no cost whatsoever. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/smallbusiness or visit an Apple store to learn more.
The letter literally says, please keep lover A busy while I'm with lover B. She talks her way out of it. You were saying you once broke up with someone in much the same way.
Yeah, well, when you asked me, do I have any similar characteristics to Lady Susan in the way I handle men? In my dark days when I would just lie without thinking about it, I totally pulled the same thing.
It's nearly the number of the beast. It's episode 66. Hello, film fans. Today we are joined in the studio by guests Sara Mae.
Hello.
Ruby.
Hi.
And as always, my co-host Kobe.
Hello.
And we are going to be reviewing the film Love and Friendship.
I hope you enjoy the show, guys. Remember, please visit us online at flixwatcher.tv. Come to our Twitter account at FlixWatcherPod, and please go to iTunes, subscribe and review.
All films featured in the podcast were available to stream on Netflix UK at the time of recording, and please be aware there will be spoilers and some language that may offend. Hello and welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher podcast. Today our guests are Ruby and Sara Mae. Before we get on to the film that we're reviewing today, if you'd like to say hello to our listeners and tell us a little bit about the podcast that you work on together.
Well, the podcast is called the Sugar Baby Confessionals, and it's all about my very dear friend Ruby and her exploration into the world of being a sugar baby.
And what is a sugar baby?
A sugar baby is someone who accepts money or gifts or a certain type of lifestyle for spending time with another person. So yes, that obviously very often includes being sexually intimate, but not always. And yeah, that's a sugar baby.
Have you ever had anyone a bit confused and gone, oh, you're in the sugar babes?
No, I don't think the sugar babes were as big in the US as they were here.
Yeah, I have to be honest with you, I don't even know who that is.
Ruby was looking at us like,
I don't even know.
Ruby was like, who are you talking about? I do get what is the difference between a sugar baby and a prostitute a lot. And the difference is that with a sugar baby and a sugar daddy, there's a relationship between them and their client rather than just a kind of
one-off thing.
Thing. So that's the predominant factor that makes a difference. But yeah, it's. I've had people recoil from me in horror just by hearing the premise of the podcast, which is very interesting, I think, and probably says more about them.
Yeah. Well, you've also had a few people come up to you and say, I've listened to episodes and I find it so interesting. It's given me some ideas to try something with my partner. It's given me the kind of permission almost to know that there are people out there doing this and, let's give it a whirl. So
completely.
That's awesome.
Most people who have actually listened to the podcast are very positive about it, because once you listen, you realize it's not about, ooh, it's so nice to be a sugar baby. That's not what
yeah.
I mean, it's about friendship, modern love, fidelity. What does all of that mean in this modern age?
Honesty, power, feminism. I mean, it really goes into some very interesting topics. So, and I have to completely give all the kudos to you for that, because I am simply answering your questions. And you do a fantastic job of threading together this beautiful narrative about the random anecdotes of my life. So thank you for that.
Well, today we're talking about love and friendship, which obviously ties in with what you guys have been talking about, your friendship and the love.
Yes.
It's a horrible segue. Sorry, guys. But,
That was actually a fantastic segue.
Yeah, no, I was just nodding away, going
a cheesy segue.
But who doesn't love cheese, really?
come on.
I mean, if you're not a lover of
Vegans.
cheese, you're a suspicious
Yeah,
person.
vegans suspicious of cheese.
So, Ruby, you chose
Yes.
this.
Yes, I did.
Why did you choose Love and Friendship? And tell us, can you give us a succinct synopsis?
Absolutely. So I chose this film. I had actually never seen it before choosing it to watch for your podcast, just based on the fact that I really love time period pieces. And I figured that this one would be well done. You know, Kate Beckinsale is typically quite good. And, you know, I knew it had Stephen Fry in it as well. And my husband always teases me and says that movies like this are Ruby porn. Because he never wants to watch them with me. So when he's working late or on a business trip, I'll kind of overdose on Regency and, you know, like time period films. So to give a quick synopsis of the movie, it's about a character named Lady Susan, who is a widow. She's in, you know, high society. She married very well, but unfortunately, she doesn't have any money anymore now that her husband has passed away. She has one daughter who is, I don't know, in her late teens, I suppose.
Yeah.
And they are living on the generosity of their family, just going from house to house. Now, Lady Susan happens to have quite the reputation. She's quite saucy, speaks her mind. So her reputation definitely does precede her.
But everyone likes her for it as well. They don't.
They do and they don't. That's
Okay.
the interesting part of the movie. Yeah. So it's about, essentially the movie is about her and how she manipulates the people around her to create a secure future for herself and her daughter.
Nice. What were your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I'm prone to hyperbole, as I said before. I really enjoyed this. I'm a huge Austen fan. Season 2 of Fablegaze is dealing with a Regency, the Queen of Regency romance, Georgette Hare, and Stephen Fry actually interviewed him for that season, and so I adore him. It ticks a lot of the same boxes as it ticks for Ruby. So it's a very underutilized bit of Austen's back catalogue, if you will. It's part of her juvenilia, which she wrote when she was really young and sort of unformed. And I think you can see that because it's a lot more naughty and saucy and subversive than... I think her later works were subversive in a very much subtler way, shall we say?
We should say it's based on a book called Lady
Susan.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry,
Not
written
Love
by
and
Jane
Friendship.
Austen.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yes.
right. Yeah.
Thank you for contextualizing my rambling.
That's
I
what
don't think that was a
I
ramble.
live for. I love it.
And I personally thought that it's one of Kate Beckinsale's absolute high points. I thought she was poised, charming, so good at delivering these devastating bon mots. I don't know how you say that in a nice French way.
Don't know what it means.
Moo.
Like it.
Boo moo. I don't know. I don't know. I've read it, but I can't say it. And it's just this rollicking ride of like what happens with this woman who just cannot. It's sometimes just for sheer enjoyment. She just messes with people. Like she punishes people who she feels that have done her wrong. She runs rings around everybody else in the film. And you can either see her as like a villain or you can see her as a sort of proto-feminist type of person who's just out to sort herself out and have fun while she's doing it.
I liked this film, and I thought that the acting from all of the supporting cast was fantastic. I have to say I was really disappointed in Kate Beckinsale. I thought that her delivery of Lady Susan was a little bit on the flat side. And of course, because she's the centerpiece of the entire work, it really detracted for me.
Who might you have liked to have seen play her instead?
I think Kate Winslet. I think Kate
Winners.
Winslet would have pulled it off better.
Kate Winslet now or Kate Winslet a little bit younger? Does it really matter?
You know what? Either one. No, I see the difference. I wouldn't have minded either one. actually. Maybe now, because being a little bit older and having that daughter who's in her late teens, it just would have felt a bit more natural.
Yeah. Plus, it's one of the points of the film is that she is an older woman. At one stage, she's talking to Chloe Sevigny.
I know. I don't know how to say her name either.
Yeah.
And she's such an amazing actress. I love that.
And she actually says, Chloe says
Chloe S.
something
says.
something along the lines of, don't you find it difficult to be around your daughter who's sort of younger and more, she's a bit younger than you? And she says, no, don't you know that it's us women of decision that hold all the trumps? And she means that they're the ones who are the most switched on. They're the ones who are the most in control. And it certainly is true in this film and this set of characters. Mm-hmm. She's a masterful display of manipulation.
Yeah, I mean, she knows Lady Susan understands other people so well that she actually reminds me a little bit of Iago, the character of Iago from Shakespeare's Othello. Just that a fantastic understanding of human nature, and then choosing to manipulate and twist a situation to your own ends. So that's dear old Lady Susan.
Yeah. I thought it was fascinating from our perspective in particular, because I was wondering, I sort of asked Ruby if she thought there were similarities between you and Lady Susan in some of your dealings with, the sugar daddies. And you were kind of quite quick to say no.
Well,
Maybe
I said yes and no, actually, because I'd like to think that I have a fairly good understanding of human nature as well. I feel like I rely a lot on my ability to size a person up quickly and decide if they're good, bad, or indifferent. But what you do, the real question is, what do you do with that information? And Lady Susan chooses to manipulate and lie and cheat to get her way. And I very consciously try not to do that. So, I don't like to think of myself as an evil genius.
So with Kate Beckinsale, I thought she played it quite well, because I don't think she was very much the straight person in this. Everything kind of revolved around her agency, but I don't think if she had the kind of comic chops that the other characters did have, I think that might have been for me a bit overkill. But also I really did like don't know what I was going to say.
Tom Bennett?
Well, Tom Bennett. Well, he was the out and out. He was the out and out like comic star from it.
That's the Sir James Martin character,
James Martin
right?
character,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh, he's so funny.
He more or less, almost steals the whole thing, even though he's got probably no more than 6 minutes or something on screen time. But he was fantastic. There's just a scene where you're introduced to him, and he's this
Peas.
complete when he comes in,
the
Churchill, and he's just introduced as this utter buffoon. He comes in going, he hasn't been invited. He's just rocked up, and he's like, Churchill. One word. I thought it was Church and Hill, and you just kind of go how he sells it, and he comes across, instead of being annoying, he's really endearing and kind of lovable.
Yeah.
But not to Frederica, who is Lady Susan's daughter, who he's trying to marry.
Which is a terrible, terrible name.
Frederica.
I agree with you. I fucking hate that name.
Yeah.
It's like, geez, if you
It's
want
like,
to do
you
something
hate
awful
your
to your
child?
child. Yes. Oh my gosh,
Call
Helen,
them
you and I.
Frederica.
On a frequency here. Totally agree.
Did she want a son instead? But she didn't get that.
I think
don't
her
know.
husband's name might have been Frederick or something. I might be. I don't know.
Okay.
But Lady Susan ends up with Sir James Martin.
Well, does she?
Indeed. Or does she, in fact, cuckold him with her lover?
Oh,
A
Mannering.
divinely handsome man, as the subtitles tell us. I loved the subtitles. It was like Wes Anderson movie crossed with Dangerous Liaisons or something. I really liked all those touches. It was quite stylized in that way, I felt. It was quite like a mannered comedy. And
It did kind of set the scene from the start about how this is going to play out.
yeah.
Because I'm not a Jane Austen-ophile, particularly, not just because I haven't watched that many of her films, really. But as soon as this starts, you know how it's going to play out with Lord Mannering's wife. You see her just crying with the kind of vignette around her, and I can't remember what her subtitles is, but you just, like you say, it's a Wes Anderson thing. The only thing that's not Wes Anderson about it is that it's not 100%
Still, yeah.
in the middle of the picture.
Formal, yeah.
Well, there's lots of things that aren't Wes Anderson about it. I mean, there's one thing that's slightly...
No, I mean in that introduction with the
Yeah.
yeah.
And in the sense that it's quite stylized and everything like that. But yeah, not in the sense of being quite that formal acting. There's some delightful bits and pieces. I always like, what's his name? The guy who plays the father, De Courcy, Lord De Courcy.
Yeah, so Reginald De Courcy and Lady De Courcy.
Yes, Reginald. And
so Sarah Mae's pointing to a picture, guys, who people listening to the podcast.
The
people at home.
What his name is?
Isn't he in something like The Vicar of Dibley or something?
Possibly.
Isn't
But his
he in
wife, Gemma Redgrave,
Yeah.
is awesome. When you first see them and they're reading out that letter,
It's
that
just genius.
interaction
There's so
between
many moments like that.
I think that was my favorite part.
Yeah.
Apart from when
Tom Bennett.
James Martin comes into it.
Yeah, that was a lovely moment I think there were a lot of really lovely human moments embedded in this kind of quite mannered comedy. And that was one of them, because he wants to read out the letter to his wife who's got weak eyes, and she just is impatient with him because he just wants to give her the gist of it, and she wants to hear the voice of her daughter through her words. And so he like overcompensates by reading out the punctuation as well, which I thought was such a typical
That's the kind of thing I do, actually, just to irritate.
But yeah, so the intrigue of the whole movie is the fact that Lady Susan, who's living off the kindness of strangers like Blanche Dubois, although she's much more in control of things.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the kindness of family, which is a slightly different dynamic.
True.
Yeah.
You're right.
The reason that I point this out is because I feel like it has an effect on the film. These relationships that she has. They're actually her. The people that she's staying with are her not ex-husband. They didn't divorce back then, did they? No, her dead husband's brother.
Yeah.
And wife and whomever. So.
And the wife is quite suspicious of her from the word go.
The wife sees right through her. Yeah.
But and she has a young, handsome young brother. Reginald, who initially, and this is a lot of genius bits in the film.
Is his name also Reginald? I thought Reginald is, Sir Reginald De Courcy is
his dad.
The older
What's
man,
his
the
name
father. The character's name is, of course, now that you've asked, it's like straight out my mind. And he's one of the main characters.
Yeah. So Reginald De Courcy sees that Lady Susan might take this young boy under her wing, and
well, he's falling for her, and he starts off making a snide comment to her when he first meets her. He says, your reputation precedes you, in quite a supercilious way, and you can just see the cogs turning, and she goes, I don't know what you mean. And he's sort of forced to go, well, as an ornament to society. And obviously he meant that there's scandals and everything associated with her. And she just totally unmans him in that moment. And you see that that's how she's going to have the control in the relationship, by going, I've been living this retired life as a widow, grieving for my husband, and now I've come to see family. I don't know what you're talking about, kind of thing. And he's totally, from that point on, he's off balance, and she keeps him there, and she controls all of their dynamic. Even when later on after he's sort of more or less in love with her daughter asks him for help because she doesn't want to marry Sir James. And Kate Beckinsale's character, Lady Susan, is trying to force her to marry him because he's very wealthy. He's dumb, but he's...
Yeah, I mean, she would be securing their future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she can't understand why her daughter is not being as pragmatic as she is. She tries to explain to her that, is she going to be a governess? And I have to admit, Frederica does seem a bit on the dim side. I can't see her becoming a governess as she says she's going to become a governess. So in a sense, I sympathize with her mother, because she is saying, look, it's not great to have to be visitors all the time. Do you want that to be, why don't you have a husband and he's kind and he's nice and all this kind of stuff? And that is very much in keeping with the time period and the way they thought. And it's similar themes in Jane Austen's other work, as we know, Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility. But in this case, the main character, Lady Susan, is so pragmatic about it, to the point of, she's almost a sociopath in a way.
Yeah, she's quite cold, isn't she? She's very calculating, and which is fascinating to watch. I mean, I don't think that you have to like her character in order to find her engaging and interesting. Yeah, exactly. The way that she treats the woman who is essentially her
lady's maid servant.
Yeah.
She says the paying of wages would be offensive to us both. I just thought that was so funny. There's lots of really funny bits. Like when she's walking in the street and a guy comes up to her and goes, Lady Susan, and she goes, be gone, sir, I'll have you whipped. And her friend says, "That's outrageous. Do you know that person?" She goes, "Of course I do. I would never talk like that to a stranger." There's lots of charming bits like that.
Yeah.
So if you love your sort of Austen dialogue and things, it's very good. But if you prefer the romance, you're not really going to get that from this film.
Stephen Fry. You said Stephen Fry's in there.
Stephen Fry.
He doesn't play that big a role.
It's a very small part.
That's my one gripe with the movie.
Not enough Fry.
Not enough Fry. I really adore him and everything that he is, and particularly in these period pieces, he's just so good at conveying that old world sense of
gravitas.
Exactly.
He has the gravitas for it.
Yeah. But also the comic chops, obviously. You know, like in the Jeeves and Wooster kind of thing, he was so brilliant. And I think that he brings that kind of sensibility to this to this role. Although, I mean, it's tiny. It's really tiny. He's basically just a disapproving husband. And I wish he could have had something a little bit larger, you know. But I suppose, you know, they had reasons.
Helen, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it kind of ultimately comes down to how much you like period dramas, I think.
Do you reckon, though? Sorry, carry on.
I mean, I guess so. I mean, it is very Jane Austen, obviously, it's written by her. And I do get the funny bits, but also it is basically like an hour and a half of women trying to find husbands, which... it's kind of not really the films that I tend to enjoy. So I don't really watch many period films. And I quite like that, obviously, the way it's played is more of a comedy than being serious. And, you know, it's quite interesting what you're saying about Kate Beckinsale, because let's face it, she's basically just been killing vampires for the last 10 years. So being in this must have been like, oh my God, I've got a real part to actually play. So, I mean, she's not amazing in it, but I didn't find her particularly offensive. I think there's also someone in this who was also in Pride and Prejudice with Zombies, which is a film
which we talked about,
reviewed and talked about. So, I mean, there's a lot of that kind of acting in there and that kind of...
So Pride and Prejudice and Zombies was supposed to be a horror comedy.
Yeah.
This is a comedy Jane Austen. Which one do you think is funnier?
Oh, this is way better. I mean, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies
is awful.
For me is an absolute sacrilege.
Ooh.
Sorry.
Sacrilege.
But it's true for me. I'm one of those annoying people who, if there's a book, I get very weird about how they've changed it and what changes they made. And this is why this book, in this case, because it was her early work, it was very short, it was written in letter form. I thought they actually did a brilliant job of bringing it to life from the subject, the original, you know, format. Whereas with some, you know, sometimes you get an adaptation and it's not very satisfying because there's certain bits or you've pictured a character a certain way or whatever. But I thought because this hasn't been done to death like a lot of the other Austen things, there was a lot more scope for them to kind of have fun and have a light touch, which I think the director, I think his name is Whit Stillman.
He also did The Last Days of Disco, which had Kate Beckinsale in it as well. So obviously that's probably why she's in it. Did it not annoy you though that they changed the title of the film?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Because love and friendship's not that exciting a change.
It's really not.
And
actually.
It isn't really about friendship. There's no. I suppose it is in the sense that most of the exposition comes from her telling her friend, her American friend, played by Chloe.
Well,
Sure. And that's how the Basil exposition comes in. But she's so witty with it, and I enjoyed it so much. And I thought, I'm a sucker. I think it's like you're saying, Helen. If you're a sucker for the gorgeous costumes and the beautiful stately homes and
which I really am, but I mean I take your point, Helen. Watching a movie with it's about 2 hours long and it's just a bunch of women looking to find the man who's going to take care of them. If it's not handled in a deft way, it can feel really dated and awful. And I'm not talking dated in the sense that they wear funky clothes from a long time ago. It feels very not modern and relatable for women who are living now. But I feel like Lady Susan is an interesting enough character that just the fact that she's so devious.
Well, I also think unlike some of the other period things, it's a lot less dated in its outlook, because she is someone who goes for what she wants. She's a woman who has agency, power. She doesn't really, although she does talk about the fact that she's forced to accept the hospitality from her family and friends. She's very much in control of most of the people around her, and you get the sense she ends up, the final scene, the thing is, she marries the dummy and cuckolds him with her lover, Mannering, who ends up living with them, which is another hilarious Tom Bennett moment, because he's so chuffed that he's got a mate to go hunting with.
Yeah, we can go hunting, and it's great to have someone play billiards with. And
you're just thinking, and she tells him she's pregnant, like literally the second after he's proposed, which is quite amusing. And he's so, he kind of just assumes it's because he's,
so virile,
so potent. But yeah, what did you think of Chloe?
I thought she was fantastic. I can never pronounce her surname either, so that's a bit of a bummer. But I mean, she's a really great actress. I've seen her in a number of different things, and she's always great. And I thought the way she played the friend, completely non-judgmental, listening to everything that Lady Susan has to tell her,
like me. And on our podcast.
Yeah, you're so right. Look at that.
Do you think someone like Lady Susan needs a Chloe character to have that?
Yeah.
I think that's part of the enjoyment of all her little intrigues. I think it's to have the person who can really appreciate her genius. And in fact, I think she keeps saying that the greatest idea of a lover is someone who just accepts everything that she does without question, because she in her wisdom is doing it. And I think that that's the role that actually her female friend plays for her.
I'm not sure I fully agree with that, just because, remember, there is that scene where her friend calls her out on something and says, actually, shouldn't you be marrying this guy? Yeah. Because, look at your situation, and you're being a bit crazy here. And so I think that she's a true friend. She listens to everything. She supports her with non-judgment. But then when she feels like Lady Susan is going astray, she calls her on it, which is what a real friend is supposed to do. So I don't think that it's simply that, I'm trying to think of a succinct way of putting it, that kind of unquestioning, blind acceptance of everything. She obviously has her own perspective and viewpoints that she's very willing to share with the Kate Beckinsale character. Yeah, no, totally. And it is, it is very amusing. And she helps her. She aids and abets her in all her little intrigues. There's a masterful bit of manipulation that Lady Susan does, where she essentially gets caught out by the young De Courcy.
So they are both called Reginald.
I was right, man.
Oh, sorry, dude.
I knew it, man. No. And so it's the scene where she wants to meet her lover Mannering, but she's got him, De Courcy, on a string, and he's in town, and he's kind of mucking up her little liaison. So she sends him, this is how cheeky she is. Yeah. She sends him with a note to Chloe. So
addressed solely for her.
Addressed private. Mm-hmm. And she says to him, "Can you please give this into her hands? I need to." And he arrives, and the wife of Lord Mannering has arrived, because she's the ward of Chloe's husband, and she comes in. She's like, "Where's my husband? He's with Lady Susan." And he's going, "You're wrong, madam. I was just with her, and she was completely alone." And she snatches the letter away, and she reads it, and the letter literally says, "Please keep this lover A busy while I'm with lover B." And she talks her way out of it. You were saying you once broke up with someone in much the same way.
Yeah, well, when you asked me, do I have any similar characteristics to Lady Susan in the way I handle men, in my dark days when I would just lie without thinking about it, I totally pulled the same thing. So when you have somebody who is very attached to you and comes angry and hurt and full of emotion, and they're accusing you of something, the best thing to do is to deny it, take a step back, say, how could you treat me this way? If there's no trust between us, I can't be with you. And you essentially just turn it around I'm telling you, it works like a charm. It's shocking. And I feel really evil that I once did that to somebody, but I mean, he was crawling back within 5 seconds. So, I mean, Lady Susan has men pegged.
Yeah, well,
faux show.
For certain types of men. Yeah, so I guess
a few types of men. Because you had the super dummy, you had the young kid upstart, and you had the soon-to-be...
The suitor, who never says a word, Lord Mannering. He's just described as a divinely handsome man. And
he doesn't have a line in the movie, that's true. I thought at the very end, when you see them at the young Reginald and Frederica's wedding, he's obviously there as well. And I thought he would have a line then, but no, he's just the wordless...
Standing there looking handsome.
Divinely handsome.
He just smolders. That's his job.
Yeah, exactly.
I think maybe... time to head to the scores, guys.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
We're so done with New Year, New You. This year, it's more you on Bumble. More of you shamelessly sending playlists, especially that one filled with show tunes. More of you finding Geminis because you know you always like them. More of you dating with intention because you know what you want. And you know what? We love that for you. Someone else will too. Be more you this year and find them on Bumble.
So these are our special scores. They're all out of 5, and you can have decimal places. You can have a 0, but we don't allow minuses. And the first up is the recommendability, which is a word. It isn't a word. Score. And we'll start with you, Ruby, because you picked this film.
Recommendability. So out of 5 stars, I'm going to give this a 4.2. I enjoyed it well enough to give it a nice hefty chunk of star.
So what would be a 5? So in terms of...
Ooh, well, gosh, so many different genres.
Do the period one that you love.
A period one
that you would give 5 to.
I'm so sorry, my mind is a blank. Sorry, the first movie that came into my mind, which is of course completely different than this movie, but I think it's one of the closest to perfect films ever made, is No Country for Old Men.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
nice.
That I would give like 5 plus. You know, I saw it in the movie theater 3 times when it came out. That's how amazing I thought that film was. So.
And would you recommend that to everyone? Because that's got some dark, I was going to say overtones, that's just dark.
It's very dark. Well, I'm not sure if you've read the actual, like the book or anything from Cormac McCarthy. So that movie is based on a book by the same title by an author named Cormac McCarthy, who is exceptionally dark.
Yeah, he wrote The Road, didn't he?
He wrote The Road, yes, which was also turned into a film with Viggo Mortensen. He wrote, Blood Meridian. That was one that was written back in the 80s, which is just basically nails on a chalkboard for like 200 pages. It is just, it's fantastic. I mean, I love him. I love the movie. So I would recommend it to anybody, even my grandmother. I was like, yeah, Nana, you got to watch this. And she's like, are you sure?
Is this the Xavier Bardem one where he kills people with that bolt gun?
Yeah.
Yeah. With the cat, it's like a cattle. It's supposed to kill cattle. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but
just please be quiet.
Just stand still.
I wouldn't recommend that to my grandmother, but it's a great film.
My grandmother's a little weird.
Okay. Sarah Mae.
Recommendability, I would say 4.5. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I am a sucker for Austen and good period, particularly Austen things. Yeah, and I found it very satisfying to listen to the dialogue, to look at the gorgeous costumes.
So, do you think, as an Austenophile, does this play really well to your leanings? Because it's, from my point of view, like I said, I've only ever watched Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and now this as a Jane Austen based film. Is this because it's such a comedy? Is that really good for you? Or is that like taken away from the original literature?
Well, I find a lot of her stuff has a lot of comedic moments.
Okay, so this is just me being ignorant.
Not at all. Not at all, Kobe. But I do think go home right now and read Pride and Prejudice. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to call you and I'm going to be like, have you read Pride and Prejudice? Have you read Pride? Anyway, no, I really enjoyed it. I thought that the humor, it's more subversive. If you want your Jane Austen, but with an extra dollop of subversion, of sex, of, machinations, it's much less subtle and nuanced than her other ones, and it's less romantic. I'm a bit of a softy romantic, so there was a part of me that was a bit like, oh, it kind of hurts that she's being so sort of cavalier with everybody's emotions, but it has a nice happy ending, and because of the stylized way it's done, it's not like devastating. It's not like someone dies at the end or anything. I would say that if you're someone who enjoys Austen and you want something fresher than, say, the latest Sense and Sensibility adaptation or Pride and Prejudice, which we've all seen a lot. In fact, there's a new version scheduled.
Why do they
Really?
keep doing
Yeah.
it?
Oh my gosh.
Because it's bloody amazing. That's why.
Well, the book is fantastic, but how many times do we have to see it on screen, really?
Well, I do think that the seminal version with Colin Firth and is, why?
Well, the
Why not
miniseries.
just- Yeah, the miniseries has room to breathe and encapsulate everything that the book has. So that is I often feel like the books don't get done justice, really. But I love Sense and Sensibility with Emma Thompson. So yeah, I would say that if you're looking
and Kate
for,
Winslet, right?
and
She's
Kate-
in that.
Kate Winslet, yeah.
see?
Oh, making connections. Yeah. So if that's what you're looking for, some Austen, a fresh perspective on Austen, then this is a good film to watch.
Helen.
I like the fact that this is the first time that this has been adapted as a film, and I did like a lot of some of the funnier moments, but just as a whole, it's just not really my thing. So,
Are you a Jane Austen-ophile or phobe?
Everyone has to study her for A-level, GCSE, etc. So I think for the time that she was writing is brilliant because it's really clever, it's really funny, but it is kind of basically trying to find a husband or kind of going against your family and like, I want to make a person of myself and not do that, but eventually then actually finding a husband. So as the subject, I'm not really interested that much.
You mean in Jane Austen generally, or this film?
I'm not really into the period kind of. I don't sort of watch them and go, oh my god, the dresses are amazing, and really love everything about them. Then just not really something I would choose to watch. But yeah, there are some funny moments in it. 3.
I'm going to go for a 4.1. I think here. As stated ad infinitum, not a Jane Austen fan. I will never watch the short miniseries because I'm just not bothered. But to have a 1.5 hour version, I was ready to give it a go. And when this came out, a lot of film critics I said this is one of their surprising favourite films of the year, and how funny it was. And I was just like, is it really? And for me, it really was. And I think a lot of people will maybe have to kick people over the hill a bit and say, look, I know it's Jane Austen, but just give it a go. And once you get them over the hill, there's nothing
Who
real.
are those weirdos? Jokes.
People like myself. Just call me a weirdo to my face. Yeah, so 4.1.
Wow, that's pretty high.
Pretty high.
Finally, you guys are coming around to my...
Repeat viewing score, Ruby.
Repeat viewing. I would give it a 4.
Okay.
I'll definitely watch this.
1.5 hours is good time. Just a bit over 1.5 hours.
It is that length.
Yeah, well, it didn't feel too long to me. It didn't feel like it was dragging.
So
I felt like it had a good pace.
How big is the source material? Is it?
It's not
sliver?
long. I think it's... I don't know how many... You put me on the spot here.
In comparison to her
How
other
many
novels,
pages,
it's really
damn
short.
it?
In comparison.
In comparison to her other novels, it's pretty short,
It's
I
very
think.
short, yeah. It's more like a novella. She wrote it when she was in a notebook when she was sort of late teens or something. So I think it was just meant for family, to entertain a family. So I think she had more license to take more risks with the comedy as well. Then she was much more careful about and subtle in her later works that were obviously for publication. So I wonder if she'd be horrified that someone had rooted around in her old notebooks and put it on screen and, you know, published it, or if she'd be quite delighted with this representation of it.
I don't know.
So repeat viewing.
Good question. Repeat viewing. Yeah, so I think I gave it a 4.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
Sorry, I did not.
That's okay.
My ears.
Was this the first time you'd seen it?
This is the first time I've seen it, and I could definitely see myself watching it again very happily. You know, Ruby porn.
Where does it rank on the Ruby porn
Well,
shelf?
I think to have the flip side to you, Helen, I do really enjoy seeing a time period piece for the clothing and the way just life was situated. I feel like it's this little, I don't know.
Microcosm.
Yeah, it's like an interesting step back in time, which there's something about it that makes it feel a little bit magical to me. So I really enjoy watching, especially the Regency era. There's just something so feminine and soft about it that I really like.
Does this feel as sumptuous as the other adaptations?
I think if maybe slightly more so, and I think
really?
they're kind of it just in the sense of I felt that the costumes were particularly lavish and the coiffeurs. I keep trying to say French words, which I blatantly can't pronounce.
You're talking their hair.
Their hair, yeah. But I feel like it's too plain to say hair because they're so elaborate.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean.
And,
yeah, the hair was huge.
I mean,
it was basically like Jersey Shore hair, but Regency style.
What time would you need to have got up in the morning to
God.
like do that and be ready
I
by?
have no idea. Although you would have a maid servant to do it for you.
Yeah.
So
Several. There was one point where a little boy spilled some jam on her skirt, and I was just like, "Oh God, who's going to clean that jam? Who's going to clean?" And of course, it was her friend, Mrs. Collins.
Oh, don't worry, my friend will get this out, no problem.
But I just, with the real me, was thinking there's like 7 layers of cloth that have to be like removed, and all those corsets and things like that. But yeah, that's why you watch it. You know, it's the sort of the strictures of the life. There's more boundaries to everything, and so there's more obstacles between people who want to get together, for example, or who want to share a, you know,
intimate moment.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the things that I really enjoyed about Lady Susan was how she was very sexual and like just owned, like if she wanted Lord Mannering, she was going to have him one way or another. I thought that was awesome. Yeah, it's like, who cares if you live in that time, in that place? Like, go out and get what you want.
Setting up assignations right, left and center.
What's an assignation?
A meeting? A fancy meeting?
That's actually an English word. That one's not French.
It's probably... Yeah. You've got some interesting vocabulary here, some of which you can say.
I think it's because I'm in the zone of the film now, you know.
That was a zing. Did you miss that? That was really funny.
So cut that together. Cut that to right after you said it.
Repeat viewing score for yourself.
Well, I guess you know I've seen it. I think I've seen it about 3 or 4 times now.
Really?
I keep showing it to people. It's like a good film to be, again, I you know, so I'd say like, yeah, I guess I've got to say like 4.5 or something.
I mean, if you've seen anything more than about 3 times, it can only be like a 4, really.
Yeah. I probably watch things too many times though. Like, I love cinema and film and TV now because it's the golden age of TV. So I don't know where I find the time.
The Big Lebowski. That's a comedy, and I would give that a 5. Sorry. This is totally random, I know, but you asked me earlier.
For recommendability.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was trying to think of a comedy.
Yeah.
So there's another Coen Brothers film. You could tell I'm slightly obsessed with them, but yeah. Anyway, at least it's a comedy.
Sure. It is a great film.
Repeat viewing, Helen.
Yeah, not particularly high from me. Yeah, I mean... 1. I'm not going to go out my way to watch it again.
So what is a movie that you would watch over and over? What's a 5 for you?
Well,
I'm curious.
See, because we've been doing this podcast, I don't really get much time to do a lot of rewatching because obviously we have to watch a fair amount of films and quite a lot of them we haven't seen before.
But in an ideal world.
So, I mean, I guess anything like Jurassic Park, Terminator 2, Aliens, just because when TV used to be viewed normally, if they were on, and I was near a TV,
You'd make sure you're there.
be like, well, why would I not watch it?
You'd have the radio time. You'd know a week in advance. This
I'd be
thing's gonna
like
be on.
on the Sunday reading through. Oh, Aliens is on tonight at 10 o'clock. I'll kind of stick that on. Great, Aliens. But now, if I want to watch Aliens, then I have to remember that the DVD of it is at home, and I don't really have a DVD player anymore. So I have a look on Netflix, and it's not on there. Try and find it on Film 4 and it's not there, and then the interest in watching Aliens is gone. So it's kind of a little bit different in the way of viewing. So I went through a phase where I was watching Fight Club about once a week for like a few months just for fun, because I could.
Because why wouldn't you?
Yeah,
I mean, Fight
it's
Club.
a good one.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And then obviously things like E.T., which I probably see once a year, but again, probably not in a while, because I don't have the TV there with a channel where I can go, it's kind of there.
Yeah, but I guess if technology was taken out of that loop, if someone said, here's the DVD or it's available on Netflix forever for you, would you still watch it loads of times, or would you still just go, I've got other things to watch which I haven't seen yet?
I'd probably be like, I've got other films that I need to watch.
Yeah, because I think that's the biggest block, isn't it? Because now there's
so many
there.
films out there, and I mean, obviously, Aliens is a
That's one
complete
thing I
five-star
think I
film.
need to watch that more. I've only seen that once, and that ages
Oh
ago.
wow, no, you definitely have to watch that one again. That
Ruby's eyes
classic.
went as large as like flying
Like,
swords.
what?
And
Sorry.
also Fight Club is one I've only seen
Yeah.
once, which we've discussed. And that's on Netflix.
Yeah, and I mean,
It was on Netflix.
I probably don't need to see Terminator 2 any more times, but each time I do, I do still enjoy that. But yeah.
I'm going to give this a 2.5. I saw it twice. This is the second time I've seen it, actually. So
You've seen it before?
Yeah, because I saw it when it first came on Netflix. Because, like I said, I know a lot of critics and people said it's a really good film, and I didn't catch it at the cinema. We'll get to small screen score next. And I thought a lot of people said it was really good. It surprised me. I was intrigued. It was on Netflix. Had some time to kill. We watched it. I enjoyed it a lot. But I didn't think I was going to watch it again. But I enjoyed it again, but probably still going to be lower in my repeat viewing scale. I think there's other things I'd much rather watch again. But seeing Tom Bennett again was an absolute delight.
Yeah.
He's brilliant.
So that was genius. And also the Reginald, the letter had me in stitches again. It's something you don't see that much in that kind of film. It had reading out the text alongside it, and it's good.
And they did bits of letters and things so you could see the old-fashioned writing and stuff. And I just really thought those were nice touches, and the nice harpsichordy music plinking along as well.
A small screen score, Ruby.
Small screen score. I'll give it a 5. I think it's perfect for watching on Netflix, actually.
Yeah.
There's no big action scenes that you need to have some huge surround sound and a big screen for. So, 5-er.
Yeah, I saw it at the cinema, actually. And again, on the screen. And I don't think you need to see it on the big screen again. It depends on how up close and personal you want to get to the details on their gowns and whatever.
Lady Susan's lady bits.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I think as well, same sort of 4.8.
Helen.
A 5. I mean, it's a kind of perfect Netflix find, really, if you missed it at the cinema and you're an Austen completist, or you like this kind of thing, kind of a Sunday afternoon film.
Do you think
when your tummy's like full of roast,
or Whisper and Easter egg,
or carrots.
Do you think that? Do you think there's any Jane Austen film that would work fantastic on a big screen?
I mean, it's maybe more the shared experience, because I think she's got quite a big fan base in that they would quite like sort of maybe like a Prince Charles quote along would probably go down quite well.
Is it that quotable, some of it?
Oh yeah.
For teenage girls really like it as well.
Really?
And there are quite quotable things, and they could probably go dressed up, and that kind of shared experience rather than it just being on a large screen, I think would work quite well. Just because like Austen fans are really big fans, and they do really love the adaptations as well when they're done well.
And it depends on how much you enjoy the experience of going to a cinema, which I personally, I do enjoy. I still love going, getting the popcorn and, you know, or non-crackly foods to eat. I don't think you need to necessarily to draw the richness, because it's all set in drawing rooms, and there's no sort of chase scenes, carriage chase scenes or something like that.
Frederica does run off a couple of times quite.
Oh, she does, but it's all off
comically.
Screen, isn't it? Oh, she runs away from Tom Bennett's character. Yeah, she does. But yeah, so I think. Wait, am I supposed to be giving a score now, or have I?
No. I was just asking. I was just wondering if generally, because I think if I was in Jane Austen, I think I'd prefer to have the miniseries where I'm sure there's more kind of depth.
There's more space for
build out of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's the case with a lot of, because TV's so good now, when you can expand the story a bit and let things breathe. I prefer that now with book adaptations, I think, rather than you've got to get everything in 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Or they stretch 3 films out of one book.
yeah. Which they wouldn't. I don't think they'd ever do that with a Jane Austen, though. They'd just make it long and cut out bits, which they felt are boring. Or maybe they will do Pride and Prejudice, Pride Part 1,
Well,
Prejudice Part 2.
we're actually investigating that in season 2, the process of making a book into a film, because it's much more difficult than one would have thought. And I'd speak to Andy Patterson, who's a film producer who did The Girl with the Pearl Earring and The Railway Man and things like that. So I thought it was easy. I thought that was the British.
You've got the
film
story there.
industry
It's all
is-
written down. Just chop it up into
exactly.
pages.
Go to some stately home, run around in the, put some costumes on. But it seems as though it is actually really expensive to make period drama. And yeah.
Even like the 80s is period. There's like some parts of London where you can only film in there because they still have the lampposts.
Right.
And it's just like,
Yeah,
those are the places you can go.
You need like a National Trust card to be able to get into all the properties and stuff.
for the Jane Austen period stuff, it's kind of insane.
But that's, I think, it's such a uniquely British thing and such a uniquely British film pleasure, because I feel that British filmmakers do it the best, this sort of period drama, a lot of times. And, so I just think it's one of those things where it should be easy, but it's not. It isn't.
Well, we've got the castles and stuff, haven't we?
Mostly, yes.
They're all having to like sell themselves off to film companies because they can't afford to keep them going. They're all dilapidated and running to ruin.
I'm going to go for a small screen score of. I'm going to go for 5 as well. No need to see this in this. I was glad that it came on Netflix and I hadn't gone to cinema to watch it, and I enjoyed it at home. Engagement score, Ruby.
I'm going to give it a 3.8. Yeah.
Were you looking at your phone?
I wasn't looking at my phone, but I did have some other things on my mind, and I didn't feel like it was quite as riveting as it could be. So, I mean, above average for sure, but,
Sarah.
Yeah, again, I'm probably going to get, I'm going to be the high scoring one.
Don't apologise.
It's good. It's nice to give things you like high scores and tell people about them.
In that case, 4.7. Yes.
Do you just really enjoy watching films generally?
I mean, these are 2 films which I sort of had a hand in choosing, helping, and I might have influenced Ruby a little bit in her pick of this movie. So, there is that. If we picked something that I wouldn't like, Fight Club would not be for me.
oh my
It's
gosh,
just not my cup
you
of
just
tea.
haven't been converted yet.
Yeah.
No, really. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Helen, engagement score.
I mean, it's 99 minutes. God, it feels so much longer.
Did you think that? Okay.
Yeah, I sat there going, oh my God, it's still going. Like, just get married. And it's like, it's really only been on for an hour and a half. I feel like I've been here for weeks. So that's not a good sign. And I was doing a little bit of IMDbing, and I may have played some Candy Crush during it as well.
Crushing candy
Sorry.
whilst watching Love and Friendship. So what does that mean for you?
Give it a 3.
I think the first time I watched it, I was more engaged. The second time, I guess I was waiting for the key bits. Tom Bennett talking about peas, asking what they were called.
That was funny.
Yeah. So I think, including compounding both times I've seen it, I'm going to give it 2.5.
Okay. All right.
That's not very high. So the first time you watched it, you weren't that much engaged.
No, well, the first time I watched it, I was really enjoying it.
Okay.
The second time, I just knew what was going to happen.
I mean,
so
Right.
I'm quite impressed that when did you watch it the first time?
it was like a year ago.
Oh, okay, so it was quite a while ago. You couldn't have like sort of gone, I've seen it before in a reasonable amount of time. I don't need to watch it.
I forgot things like the letter, for example, with the Reginald de Courcy and his wife, which I think is still very, very well played out.
Yeah, lovely scene.
So we have an overall score of 3.82, which is decent.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Is
pretty
that good? That
Yeah,
seems low
definitely.
to me.
No, I mean, a high score is 4.7, but anything over 3 is generally high. Because,
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
it's not that far away from a 4.
Yeah.
I think we really do represent everyone in the world.
Yeah.
On that bombshell. No one commented on Twitter about this, which is
know.
probably an indication of how few people have seen it.
Or maybe the audience for this film might not necessarily be the kind of audience that uses Twitter.
I think.
That's true. You might be looking at a slightly
Older
demographic?
female.
I don't know. I mean, it was in the cinemas for maybe a week.
Yeah, it
And
wasn't
it didn't
again.
have
But
a
the
wide
thing is-
release.
No.
Yeah.
And also, Love and Friendship is just not that distinctive a name that I think
not, is it?
True.
people grab it on. They wouldn't. I don't think people would see it on Twitter and think I need to talk about that compared
But
to like.
this,
Babadook,
I
for
reckon the
example.
silver screen viewings of it would have been pretty rammed.
Yeah,
Retired people love
Yeah.
a bit of Austen.
a lot of time. Freelancers.
I think they should have done more promotion of it because that's again. I thought
Yeah,
that I thought these kind of things were wildly popular, like catnip for Austenites and people like that. You know, so
Maybe it was something that, the title, it gives off kind of like a Ashton Kutcher rom-com or something.
Yeah,
It's-
I
it
agree.
is
quite
The
vague.
title is really bad.
And because it's, even if they'd called it Lady Susan, then Austen fans would be like, oh, it's Lazy Susan, not, oh, this story sounds a lot like the Austen story, this. Oh, but it is that. But why haven't they called it
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Kate Beckinsale, doesn't she normally kill vampires? So maybe the casting
Do you
wasn't
think do you
quite
think
as strong
the silver
as...
screeners will know Kate Beckinsale kills vampires as well?
No, I reckon that was not a silver screen choice. But yeah, maybe
Pearl
the
Harbor,
title and I don't know. I mean,
lack of marketing.
it got like 4 out of 5 in the Guardian. They reviewed
Yeah.
it highly.
it did get a lot of really
I
good.
think like
critical-
Empire gave it 5
Yeah.
stars. I think a lot of people rated it highly. So
Just no one went to see it.
Yeah.
Well, it's now on Netflix, so you can all go and see it.
Now's a chance.
That's
absolutely.
it.
Do it.
Okay, guys, thanks a lot for spending time with us.
It was a
Here.
pleasure.
It's been such a pleasure. Absolutely.
Aw,
Good.
It's been lovely to have you, babe.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Tell us where we can find you online, so the Twitters.
Okay, so you can find Fable Gazers, one word, .wordpress.com. That's our podcast company. And on there, you'll find out all the information you need to know about the Sugar Baby Confessionals. We are at Fable_Gazers if you want to tweet us, which we love to hear from you. Or you can tweet me. I'm at Sara Mae Tucson, Sarah with no H. Thank you very much. And Ruby is anonymous. Please don't contact her.
Don't try to find me. That's fine. And don't forget season 2, Hair Today,
Yeah.
will
For-
be coming out.
For people who love Regency romance.
Exactly.
It covers the work and the mystery of why her books have been adapted into film of Georgette Hare, who is known as the Regency romance queen, and she was heavily influenced by Austen. So do check that out. It'll be next year though, because we're still doing Sugar Babies. We're in the thick of the Sugar Baby Confessionals.
So you're talking 2019.
We're talking 2019. Yeah,
No worries.
Yeah, we'll look forward to it.
cool.
Okay. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. You were just listening to the latest episode of Flixwatcher podcast. Thank you to Brendan Russell for his sublime editing skills, Mighty People for the tunes you can hear right now. Please do come to iTunes and find us, like, subscribe, share with your friends. Find us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod and our website, flixwatcher.tv.